Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here, despite the melancholy of the day, not only because of the weather, but of the topic as well.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Yeah. I was assigned to talk about left-wing populism, a threat to liberal democracy, which is up there, but and then mention my country, Greece, where we have a left-wing populist party in power together with a right-wing party in coalition. But I will change my topic slightly, so I will talk about populism in general, whether it is on the left or on the right, because as Kati said, we have to, those two populisms coming from both sides represent a common danger, and this is the new title of my presentation. So what I'm going to do in the 9 minutes I have left is I will try to answer the title question. I will explain my answer by using the Greek case as my example. Now, the question is fully this: is populism a disease of or a cure to democracy? And the answer, to the extent that we have it now, the current answer is populism is both a disease and a cure. This is double talk, of course, or gibberish, perhaps, if you like. This answer will not do. We have to be more determinate about the answer. And this answer will not do for two reasons. Reasons of empirical validity and reasons of ontological consistency. By empirical validity, I mean that we do not have any empirical cases and empirical reference around the world where populism is proven, empirically proven, to have positive effects on liberal democracy. So we run out of cases already. So I could have finished my presentation here and conclude, perhaps, because we do not have any cases of populism with positive effects on liberal democracy, but there are very serious ontological reasons as well that populism cannot be a cure for democracy or a positive thing for democracy, excuse me. So look at this definition or combination of definitions which is current in the literature on populism. It says that populism is an ideology that considers society to be separated between the pure people and the corrupt elite, and where virtue resides in the simple people who are the overwhelming majority. So this is a combination of two definitions, one by Kasmude and another one, older one by Wiles. There are two components here, if you look carefully. The first component is a natural majority of the people, a natural, I repeat, majority of the people who have, second, an exclusive right to morality or virtue. Of course, democracy is about majority rule, you will all agree, but what do we mean by that? We mean two things. Majority rule is not the same as the principle of majority. So in liberal democracies, we always talk about the majority principle, about majorities that alternate, and not about majority rule, which is more opposite to populism. Now, you will ask, and this is the $1 million question, what is populism? So this is ontological consistency again, and there are a million definitions. I could be talking about those definitions for hours. But if we try to define and understand populism in the most minimal way, I come up with this definition: populism is democratic illiberalism. Democratic illiberalism is not the same as illiberal democracy, which is the title of this workshop. Illiberal democracy is a regime, a type of regime, a diminished type of democracy, if you like. Democratic illiberalism is a set of ideas that propose that all power comes from a unified people. Okay, so democratic illiberalism, you can understand that democracy, which is a triangle down there, has two faces: the liberal face and the populist face. And those two faces of democracy change all the time. So this is not a very stable picture. Actually, it goes like that. So when liberalism goes up, populism comes down, and vice versa. Populism becomes strong when liberalism becomes weak and weak. Okay? Now think about, for example, the battle of, good and bad, the battle of Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi, if you like. And here you have the three features of populism. So there is one, single cleavage, second, political adversity, and third, majoritarianism. So I recognize populism when I have all of those features, but all of them together, not some of them, not two of them or one of them, but all of them together. Now, all of those features are inimical to what we have come to know and understand and live by, liberal democracy or political liberalism, as explained by Rawls, for example. And political liberalism acknowledges the existence of multiple cross-cutting cleavages, not one single cleavage, but many cross-cutting cleavages. Second, it is inimical to political adversity, so political liberalism supports or is for moderation and what Rawls said, overlapping consensus, the achievement of overlapping consensus. And third, rule of law, the supremacy of rule of law and the protection of minority rights. So all of those three characteristics are quite the opposite of what I referred to earlier as democratic liberalism, aka populism. Now, let us come to Greece, modern, current Greece, because Greece is a country where populism has been very, very strong since the 70s. Actually, Greece is the country in Europe where populism grew very, very strong, earlier than in any other country since the 1970s. And actually, Greece was the country where a populist party first came into power, and that was PASOK, the socialist PASOK, in 1981. Now in Greece you have, since January, in power, a coalition of parties, Syriza on the left, a populist party on the left, and the Independent Greeks, a populist party on the right. So that's interesting, isn't it? So let me go to the three characteristics, to the three features I described earlier, and see how, very, very briefly, how they apply to the Greek landscape today. One single cleavage instead of many cleavages, and here you have a poster by Syriza which says either we or them. So this addresses the internal country audience, and it says that who is with us is against us, so either them or we. And there is another idea of one single cleavage, Greeks, okay, the virtuous pure Greeks against the foreign powers, the IMF, the Troika, the EU Commission, the European Central Bank. I think I will not skip this slide. Now, who are we, you will ask? And here is a very simple listing of who are we, the first column, we who feel as victims, who want to promote egalitarianism in society, who depend on the state and state favors and state protection, who value emotiveness and morality, versus partnership, meritocracy, open market, reason, and competence, all the democratic liberal values. So there is a discourse in Greece that plays out on those two antithetical poles, we versus them. Political adversity, this is my second feature of populism. In Greece, the government today is seen as fighting an asymmetrical guerrilla war. Those are the words by Kostas Douzinas. He's a professor at the University of London. He describes very well the idea of the Greek government, which sees politics, both Greek politics and EU politics, as an asymmetrical guerrilla war, in which war any opposition to the government is denounced or are denounced as traitors. A fifth column promoting alien interests. This is the Minister of Energy and Development speaking, or servants of foreign powers, especially Berlin. This is the Minister of Foreign Affairs speaking. And here is the Prime Minister of Greece, Alexis Tsipras, who in an extraordinary parliamentary session last March, he charged that the previous government for 5 years executed orders by the Troika, also executing the Greek people. He then asked, he asked the opposition in the parliament, Will you support these government's negotiations and put an end to austerity, or will you continue to act as the mouthpieces of the Troika? So my friends in Hungary think about something which I know what it is. And my third feature is majoritarianism, which is not the principle of majority, the rule of majority, and which ends up as the tyranny of the moral majority, the people. Which are the tactics for that? There are 4 tactics. I will not say much, I will not say anything about them. I will just put them on the board. State grab. So the new government has grabbed the state, a war on institutions, rule by decree, and finally the control of the media and the intimidation of the media by filing lawsuits, etc. I'm concluding. So Greece is a Jurassic Park of populism, if you like. Greece is a very good case to study populism on both the left and the right, and especially to see how populism, how left-wing and right-wing populism can work in tandem when in government. Populism is something that is fully determinate in normative terms. It is always a pathology of democracy. We do not have any cases where populism has been a good thing for democracy, and eventually I think populism is, in the sense I have described that, I think is the major threat to liberal democracy today. And since my slide will stay on the, I was not prepared for that, but I will not show this slide, but since it will stay here for another few minutes, this is food for thought by Lesel Kolakowski. Thank you very much.